Pizza Hut may be an internationally recognized pizza chain today, but that's definitely not how it started out. In fact, Pizza Hut has a much richer history than we're giving them credit for. The pizza chain became known all over the world thanks to two brothers, Dan and Frank Carney. With barely any knowledge about pizzas and $600 in their pocket that they'd borrowed from their mother, Dan and Frank took their best swing and made themselves an empire out of practically nothing, and eventually sold it to PepsiCo for $300 million. But how exactly did they manage to do it? This is the story of how two broke brothers invented Pizza Hut.
I think this is the right thing for us to be doing, Ivana.
What will people think?
Let them talk.
Ivana.
Ivana. It's wrong, isn't it?
But it feels so right.
Then it's a deal?
Yes, we eat our pizza the wrong way.
Crust first.
Introducing stuffed crust pizza from Pizza Hut. With a ring of cheese baked into a totally new, thinner crust, you'll want to eat it the wrong way. Crust first.
May I have the last slice?
Actually, you're only entitled to half.
Large, just $9.99.
The beginning. The story of Dan and Frank Carney dates back to 1958 in Wichita, Kansas. Born in 1931 and 1938, nobody knew that the two brothers would go on to lay the foundations of what we now know as a billion-dollar pizza chain. Dan and Frank were 2 out of 7 children and grew up attending local schools and helping out at their family's small grocery store. While things were never really great for the Carney family, things changed for the worse after the Carney brothers lost their father, who was the town's local grocer. The passing away of the head of the Carney family didn't just take a toll on their children emotionally, but the family also faced a terrible financial loss after that. The two brothers had no choice but to work to keep the household going. Frank was only 10 years old when his father passed away, which was way too young for him to process anything at all. However, before he died, he made both of his sons promise that they would finish their college education to sustain themselves. "If you want to do something, do it for yourself," Frank recalls his dad telling him. The two brothers took his advice to heart and made sure that despite all odds, they received an education that would help them grow an empire for themselves out of nothing. Learning the business. Because Dan and Frank worked at their family's grocery store, Carney Market, from a young age, Dan knew that he wanted to go into the food industry, which is why he went on to polish his skills by studying business at Wichita University in their hometown, and was soon followed by Frank, who did the same. Despite his professor's disapproval, Dan went on to write a master's thesis on franchising because he believed that it was the future of the food business, and he wasn't wrong. Sadly, Dan's thesis wasn't accepted and he didn't get his degree. However, he didn't let this setback affect his aspirations and continued to learn more about the world of fast food and franchising. He started off by studying the business models and strategies for successful fast food chains like McDonald's and KFC. At that time, Dan has said, there were no courses on franchising. In fact, franchising was pretty much relegated to the auto business at that time. Still, it gave me the background to form my own company and basically our own franchise agreement, which evolved over time. Even though the brothers practically had nothing to their name, they still worked hard and tried to learn about the fast food industry as much as they could before stepping out into the field and risking everything to set up their business. The start of Pizza Hut. On their search for success, the Carney brothers coincidentally ran into a local estate agent who convinced them that opening a pizza place would be their best financial bet. Frank and Dan believed that this would be the solution to all of their financial problems. So, with a little bit of faith, the two brothers borrowed $600 from their mother and used up all of it to set up a small pizzeria. Because of their small budget, Dan and Frank had to buy used equipment to meet the rent costs for their building. They ended up with $0 after setting up a small pizza and beer place mainly targeted at students. Instead of hiring chefs, the brothers asked their friend John Bender to help them figure out how to actually make pizza. In fact, their earliest pizza recipe didn't even have a strategy. Dan and Frank just put together a pie that felt and tasted right. And that was that. 2 weeks before we opened, we found someone to teach us how to make it, Carney later told Nation's Restaurant News. They started off with a 500 square foot space that could only seat 25 people, but that didn't stop the Carney brothers and they put in all of their energy into their pizzeria's opening night on June 15, 1958. They ended up giving free pizzas to everyone as their first business strategy, which proved to be a very successful move in introducing people to their restaurant. As far as the name goes, Pizza Hut was actually named by Dan's wife Beverly, who decided that it would go good with the restaurant's hut-shaped building, which has now become a signature part of every Pizza Hut franchise. Dana and Frank put in all of their energy and resources into making Pizza Hut a success in its very early days. A few years after the successful launch of Pizza Hut around 1969, Frank had to drop out of college because he wanted to spend most of his time trying to elevate his business. However, because of the promise he made to his father, the new entrepreneur decided to go back to school, even if it was remotely. He used to receive his lectures and assignments on videotapes, and this is how Frank received his bachelor's degree in the year 2000 while running a successful business. The success of Pizza Hut. By happenstance or by God's good grace, Pizza Hut became an instant success, Frank said. Despite Dan and Frank not knowing anything about pizza making, they were able to turn Pizza Hut into a local success. However, Dan and Frank had a little trouble, which led to other people franchising. By 1964, the Carneys had developed the branding for the Pizza Huts, establishing the familiar huts with red roofs that we know today. And because of that, Pizza Hut had opened over 145 outlets in 1966. Frank Carney then attempted to make long-term plans as far as the future of his company was concerned, which is why Pizza Hut decided to go public. The move resulted in an incredible growth, and by 1977, Pizza Hut was sold to PepsiCo for more than $300 million. While Dan moved on from Pizza Hut to become a venture capitalist and stayed out of the limelight after that, Frank stayed back as a president and a member of the board. In 1980, Carney decided to leave his business behind and move on to other things. In a 1998 interview with Nation's Restaurant News, Carney said, "I had no desire to get back into the pizza business. I never saw anything that was compelling enough to get back in." This sudden decision was mostly because Frank didn't agree with the way PepsiCo transformed the company. From a small homegrown business, Pizza Hut had turned into a giant empire that ran on marketing rather than anything else, leaving Frank with no option but to distance himself from the name. New beginnings. As hard as it was for him to leave his own business, Frank Carney then tried his hand at real estate, oil and gas exploration, the automotive, rental, and recreational industries, but nothing at all to do with pizza. However, he did spend a couple of years working in a food service when he was appointed the chairman for West Sizzlin Steakhouse. In 1994, he was named vice chairman of TurboChef Incorporated, a company involved in the design, development, and manufacturing of high-speed cooking systems for the food service industry. However, Frank realized that his true passion still lay somewhere in the world of fast food franchising. So, even after moving on from Pizza Hut, Frank found himself going back to his roots of growing and nurturing a business. Returning back to pizza. While Frank refused many offers from pizza companies that attempted to involve him in their business, it was a surprise to everyone when we announced that he was joining the Papa John's pizza franchise in 1994. He decided to give the Pizza Hut industry another shot when his friend Martin Hart asked him to sample Papa John's in a taste test. Frank must have really liked what he tasted because that was all it took for him to get on board. He believed that their product had the potential to make it big in the world of fast food. Not just that, but Frank wanted to experience the thrill of building a business from scratch once again. "I'm probably having more fun now than ever before," he told Nation's Restaurant News. "It's more fun than anything I've ever done. It's kind of like a replay. The difference is like being a parent and a grandparent. The first time everything was new. This time I'm more experienced, more relaxed." Papa John's was Frank's attempt to fix everything that went wrong during his time with Pizza Hut, including the merger with PepsiCo that cost his brand its initial identity. By the middle of 2001, Carney had shares in nearly 130 Papa John's stores through the 4 holding companies. By 2001, Frank owned 133 Papa John's locations, eventually selling his franchise to Terry Newman. He also remained a president for the International Franchise Association, IFA, showing that he really did build an empire for himself through franchising. Frank was also inducted into the IFA Hall of Fame for all his hard work. Currently, he is almost always on the road, checking up on one of his many Papa John's franchises, which are among the largest franchise groups of all time. The story of Pizza Hut is changing lives, Wichita State University President John Bardo has said. It's about being willing to take a chance on yourself, about reaching out to your friends, about caring. That's the story of Pizza Hut. That's the story of Wichita State. The Carney brothers have truly lived a rags to riches story. From having nothing to growing an empire for themselves and still continuing to do so is no easy feat. From the humble beginnings of Pizza Hut to becoming a legacy in the world of franchising with Papa John's, Frank Carney's story hasn't been easy, but it proves that with the right amount of dedication, everyone can achieve great things. Make sure you give us a huge thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. If you like our content, then press the bell icon so you can get a notification every time we post new content. See you guys next time.